And hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. This is Coach Elix here, coming to you live from Attleboro, Massachusetts. And what a beautiful Friday fall day. Welcome fall, my favorite time of the year. And talking about favorite things, I have my favorite two people with me.
No, I'm lumped in with this one.
Well, I don't want to
Like
leave
I'm not sure I really like that.
Well, tell people, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Steven the Medium. That's who I am, supporting Coach Elix today on Get a Grip with Coach Elix.
Today and every Wednesday, he's my co-host. I co-host with his show. Every Friday, excuse me. Sorry. See what happens?
I'm just one of the favorites. There's many of them.
No.
So my show out the window.
So Steven has his show Through the Static Wednesdays at 5.
That's
right.
I
co-host with you.
You do.
And he co-hosts with me. And we happen to have a wonderful life together. We've been married 27 years, going into 28 years, April 8th.
Oh, I was waiting for you just to make sure you got that right.
Oh, thank God! I was sweating bullets slightly there for just about a minute, but so we have a wonderful life, and then there's our wonderful producer who is looking pretty amazing. I don't understand what's going on.
Very handsome,
seriously,
very handsome.
Like, what's going on over there?
You see that look he's giving you?
Yeah, he's giving me the evil look.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
You look pretty, fancy today.
Very dapper.
Well,
Yes,
I
sir.
finally also got the
haircut?
top done. Yes.
So both of us. Both
I
of us.
was getting might shaggy, so
And we don't allow that. So you look amazing, and it's great to have you here. And hopefully today's show is going to be, there's not going to be any spirit interventions like we had Wednesdays.
Wednesday was nuts.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But it was amazing nevertheless.
It was a great show.
So
and just quick, you looked up who Rod Serling is?
No.
who is he?
He was the host of a show called The Twilight Zone.
Oh, you said that Wednesday
Yes.
at the end of the show.
About weird things.
Yeah, it was like we were in a
happening.
Twilight Zone
Yeah,
Wednesday.
that's why I said maybe you were channeling Rod.
I don't know who
Serling.
I was channeling, but
I promise you,
It's
we
good?
are up. It is good.
Good.
Everything.
We're good, Elix.
1, 2,
We're good.
3. Knock on wood. But anyways, for those of you who noticed, last week we ran Scalabrini's show again.
Right.
Stephen and I were not here. Of course, that happened to be a show that people wanted to listen to again. Brian Scalabrini, the White Mamba, Scal, an incredible friend, and one of the most notorious athletes in Boston.
that interview was, he was so impressive. He just was so, I forget who I was telling to go listen to it. Piero, who cuts our hair.
Yep.
And I was telling him, if you haven't listened to it, you've got to listen to it. He's just amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is, somebody asked me before, is that how he is all the time? Because, I happen to know Scal, and I said, that's exactly who he is all the time.
Yeah.
He's just a great guy who is really, he speaks with a commitment to inspire people, and, I'm really proud to call him my friend. But having said that, we weren't here because Stephen and I, life has been happening with us, and I didn't have an opportunity to tell you guys about one of our little dogs. Had a seizure a week ago, and it was unexpected. We had to rush him to the hospital, and he got admitted. And our dogs are our children. That's what we have. We love them. That's everything. Our most meaningful, treasure in our lives. And so to have him go through that, he was diagnosed with a tumor in his liver. But ultimately, what caused the seizure was very low sugar levels. And we didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And the doctor thought that, in fact, they thought that it was recommended that maybe it was time for him to be put to sleep. But we tuned in, we used our resources and spirit, of course, and decided, well, it's not going to happen that way because with COVID, we didn't have an opportunity to go visit. We were not allowed. So it's like, no, he's coming home. And, as a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about, visualizing and connecting and creating from that perspective. That's what Stephen and I did. We both visualize him in good health. We figure, you know what, he's coming home. If we get 1 day, we're blessed. If we get 2 days, we're more blessed. Right now, we got over a week with him. And
we're going on, Wednesday will be 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But that doctor was really sort of adamant that we would, if we were lucky, we would have him a full night.
Yeah. So that is, I tell people all the time, listen, we walk the walk. I'm not a coach who talks the talk. We walk the walk. And Stephen and I really looked at each other and said, okay, so, what would we be telling, the people that we coach, the people that come to us for advice or for whatever they come to us for, what would we be telling them? And we said, you know what, we got to take on, creating the intention that he's going to get better. We have been monitoring his blood sugar levels. We changed his eating, and all of a sudden, this dog is back to himself. And I cannot begin to tell you how incredibly blessed we feel. And again, it's 1 day at a time. He's technically in hospice care, but we take it 1 day at a time, and we are grateful for today. Today's a great day.
You got to believe.
You have to believe. It really starts with really looking to that, to believing, even when there's no evidence that something's possible. If you speak it, you create the opening for it to be possible, to be manifested. And we have another story, and maybe we'll talk about that later, our little Ricky story. But having said that, so one of the things that I get feedback from listeners and clients is we've been talking over the past several weeks. We talked about G.R.I.P. G.R.I.P is, a 4-step methodology to give you access to making massive movement towards achieving your goals. That's really what G.R.I.P is. It stands for Greatness Requires Intention and Purpose. It is something I've worked on for the last 20 years as a coach, and it's my own methodology to invite people to step into a bigger game. The 4 steps is being clear as to what your goals are, understanding roadblocks, taking a look at your foundational integrity, and then coming up with a plan, planning the work and working the plan. So we've been mostly talking about goals and connecting with purpose and connecting with your why. And, Scalabrini and, the guests that I've had have talked about how important connecting with that purpose and how important connecting with that why is. But some of the feedback that I've received is people still, they want to get practical tools, they want to learn a practical way to connect with that why, that purpose. Some people sort of know what they want, but they don't have access. You get what I'm saying? Yep. Like they don't have access to connecting to that purpose. And today is going to be all about learning a practical way or ways to connect with that purpose or that vision. Because that is once you connect with purpose, then that's going to give you access to being clear as to what goals you're then committing to, for life. But without purpose, you can't really commit to goals. It's like, driving a car with no destination, right? Just burning gas along the way.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think for listeners, I think it would be really great to hear, like, if someone came up to you, Elix, like in your coaching session, and it was the first time, you're coaching them, and just said, I'm in this job. It's just a job. I have a good life. I think I'm happy, but I don't even know what my purpose is. Like, I don't know where do I begin.
Right. And by the way, I invite you, listener, to ask yourself, is that a familiar place, what Stephen just said? Because I would say that is very familiar for most people. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. If you are somebody who your life is okay and you're okay with that, and you don't necessarily love your job, but you're okay, you're satisfied with going in, and that works for you, that's fine. I'm not here to tell you that shouldn't be that way. Who the hell would I be to tell you that? No, that's not how that works. However, when people connect with that purpose, when people connect with that deeper why, then they begin to realize, wait a minute, that's not good enough for me. Just being satisfied or being okay, it's not good enough. I want bigger. I want better. But the only person that can determine that, it's you. And a lot of people come to coaching because they want to engage in that inquiry, and they're curious about engaging in that inquiry, and that's a wonderful inquiry. And actually, that's what we're going to do today. So, are we ready for a break? I think I saw that note in Spanish, mind you. So we will be right back. He is something else. By the way, if you want to connect, if you want to talk to me, if you have questions about your own purpose, your own why, or you just want to go through this exercise with me, call me 508-222-1320, and we will be right back. And welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I am Coach Elix, and today we are talking about how to get access to discovering your purpose. And Stephen, before the break, he asked me a question. If a client comes to me and he says, what was the question again, Stephen?
If somebody comes to you and, in a nutshell, tells you, I have a job, I've been in a job for the past 10 years, I have great friends, I have a great family, and I think I'm happy, but I have no idea if I know what my purpose is. I know I go to work, but it feels more just like a job. It sort of feels robotic. It's a means to an end to get a salary. And how do I know I know my purpose, or how do I get to my purpose?
Beautiful. So that's an awesome question. It's a question that is brought up by many people, most people that seek coaching, or anyone who's seeking to better themselves in business or life may have that question. So one way is to really do a vision exercise. So so we're going to do that today. So I want to actually do vision exercise with everyone, with both of you included, so that you can get to experience how we begin to create that inquiry, if you will. So that's one of many ways. But I want to read this to you, and perhaps this will also answer that question. Mm-hmm. This actually showed up. We read a daily word every day, an inspiring something that inspires both Stephen and I. We read it together. And this was yesterday's, and I planned to do the show on purpose all along. But here's what came up. So it reads as follows. Purpose, I search my feelings and discover my purpose. When do I feel most vibrantly alive? That's a question to ask oneself. What do I feel drawn to? What is that draws me in? Asking questions with open and gentle curiosity allows me to discover my purpose. So that's one possible way, and that's how we get into the vision exercise, asking those questions. I take time to deeply contemplate these questions, paying attention to everything that comes to my mind as I listen for answers. Then images of people and situations may begin to fill my awareness, and then I may notice that feelings and impulses start to surface. My feelings and emotions provide powerful clues. I am beginning to feel excited, energized. Maybe I feel a deep sense of calm as I discern the rightness of an impulse. I heed these feelings as a prompt from spirit or the universe within to follow the call to my heart. That is a really tangible way to engage, to ask yourself, how do I discover my purpose? What did you, listening to that, what did you hear?
Well, I think from 2 weeks ago when we had Scal here, mm-hmm. and we were talking about sort of this subject, and I made a comment just about the curiosity piece. And I think and that's actually in that, the word curious or curiosity. But what I really got from that, Elix, is when you read it, is that I loved it because it just means that anybody can do this. Like anybody can follow this direction or these words, and I'm sure you're going to elaborate more on it, but anybody can, and we all have a purpose. And there are ways and tools and directions to get there. So that was beautiful. That really was beautiful.
Yeah, and what happens is we may connect with that. So say, for example, you meditate, right? And in that moment of meditation, you feel really excited, you feel really energized, and you begin to connect, and then life happens. And then stress piles up. Life, everyday life happening, right? And we all have life happening. There's nothing we can do about life. Mm-hmm. In that moment when the stress piles up, that's when we begin to feel that our control and that passion begin to slip away. So this is a way of connecting with that and learning, getting mastery, learning the ability to call on to that in real time. So when the stress or when life circumstances get in the way, you pull in and you call in into that passion. But again, if you're not clear, if you don't have clarity around what that is, it's really hard to pull that in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one thing that I wanted to do, and I said in the Facebook Live, next week I'm going to have Richard Glazer, who is the husband of Judith Glazer. She is an incredible mentor, friend of mine who passed away a year and a half ago from pancreatic cancer. She's the founder of Conversational Intelligence. And I use conversational intelligence in a lot of my coaching because that really is the neuroscience of fear and trust. So I integrate that into my GRIP methodology. What does that mean? It means that when we're having fear-based conversations, our brain responds in a certain way. When we shift to trust-based conversations, our brain responds in a certain way. So when we're talking about one thing that that I notice for most people is when we begin to talk about what is that one thing you really want to do, for most people, they begin to resist even committing to something because fear is so strong in the background, and then we begin to having those fear-based conversations. Have you had that situation of I like to have, my own business, and then the brain goes into, well, you don't want to try that because you're gonna risk failing, and if you fail, you're gonna lose everything you got. And then if you lose everything you have, you might end up being homeless. That's a fear-based conversation. And that's when the brain gets hijacked by the amygdala and you go into a state of fight, free, protect, defend. So visualizing and connecting with positive emotions, it's a way to engage a different kind of the brain. Our prefrontal cortex, which is our executive brain, which is where trust it's created. Trust is based, and that is the brain that allows us to be more engaged, more open, and have a mindset of abundance and positivity. So keep that in mind, because imagine, right? Imagine there's a rainbow, because I don't have the visual. Usually, this is what Judith called the conversational dashboard. But imagine a rainbow, and the left part of that rainbow, it's more reddish. And that's where there's feelings like resisting and being skeptical. Towards the middle is a little yellowish, and that's where we sort of wait and see. And then towards the right of that rainbow, it's more green. That's where we become more experimenters and co-creators. Think about that for a moment. Being a resistor, being skeptical, being in that place of wait and see, experimenting or co-creating. How oftentimes, if you think of a big goal for yourself, where do you think you might find yourself? Where would you gauge you are in that rainbow for most people? Do you think most people may be resisting?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think that most people fall in that the left side.
Yeah, most people do. Some people become skeptical, right? What about, I'm not quite sure that's going to work out. That's skeptical. And that's Mr. Mark, our producer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm skeptical about almost everything. Somebody says, oh, this is going to happen to you. I know it's going to happen. And I'm like, well, if it happens, great. It happens. If it don't happen, oh well. Yeah. But I think that's how I try to deal with the negative part of it. So I'm not, if I get my hopes up and then it doesn't happen, I have that crash and, I'm like, see, I told you, nobody listened to me kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's a fear-based conversation. You starting from, if I fail, like if I don't want to get my hopes up, because if I do, then I'm going to crash and burn, right? That's you're already putting into the space the possibility of failing. That's fear-based conversation, being skeptical about things. How many people in the wait and see? When something happens, then it will be the right time. When so and so does that, then it will be the right time. How many of you, when I have money, then I'll invest in that opportunity? Or when I retire, or when I graduate from school, or when I'm married or I have children, whatever. There's hundreds of reasons why people get stuck in the wait and see. And that is also a conversation that is a fear-based conversation. So learning to connect with purpose, learning to visualize purpose is a practical way to move yourself, disengage that primitive brain, and engage trust, the prefrontal in your brain, so that you can then become somebody who is not engaging in fear-based conversation, but rather engaging what's possible. And when you engage in what's possible, that creates the opening to take risk, because you're not concerned about the failure, but rather you're looking forward the possibility of what might happen when I do whatever it is that you're committed to. Hopefully that's making sense.
Yes.
And when we come back, we are going to actually do a visualization exercise. So tune in, 508-222-1320, and we will be right back. And welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. We are talking about practical ways to discover purpose. I talked a little bit about the neuroscience of the brain. By the way, if you find this conversation intriguing, if you find this conversation fascinating, if you want to learn more about how the brain, how to better understand the science behind fear and trust, you want to tune in next week. Because next week I'm going to have Richard Glaser, who's the husband of the late Judith Glaser, who founded Conversational Intelligence, which is the science study of the neuroscience of fear and trust. And if you want to understand what is happening in your brain when you feel paralyzed or when you feel scared or when you're not taking action, and how to alter that so that you're not allowing the gremlins in the background to stop you, you then want to, tune in, because I'm going to engage Richard in a conversation that he can tell you a lot more about, Judith's work and the work of the neuroscience of fear and trust. So, having said that, I want to do an exercise with all of you. Okay, you guys included. So
Yes.
you are students today.
Yes,
So here's
Mark.
what I want to do. If you're listening, right, I want you to imagine what your life would look like if you accomplish every goal that you set out to for yourself. So just imagine that for a moment. I want you to start thinking about anything that is positive, anything that would make you feel as if you're on top of the world. As you approach this exercise, I want you to put yourself at your peak state. Have absolute faith and expectation that you can create anything that you want. This is an opportunity to be enthusiastic, to be ambitious, and to reach for your outer limits of what you believe you can achieve. So close your eyes. Unless you're driving, of course. If you're driving, do not close your eyes. You can imagine through your third eye and create a mental image of what life looks like and feel like if you're at your peak state. If you accomplish that one thing that you've always wanted to, if there was nothing that would get in your way, and somebody gave you a magic wand and said, here, your wish is my command. Because in reality, the universe acts as the little genie for us. Your wish is my command. I want you to imagine being in that place. Again, anything is possible. This is an invention. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing that's out of limits. You are creating your future. Now begin to feel the experience. How are you feeling? Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you surrounded by? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Give yourself time to feel all the positive emotions that arise when you picture success. For some of you, your ideal future may include a career change. For some of you, it may include reinvigorating your relationship. Reach wild success in your business. Start a new business. Maybe as simple as have a clean and clutter-free home. Or have the time that you want with your children. Maybe about tripling your salary. Or losing weight. Or being a best-selling author. Whatever it is, nothing is out of limits. And when you're ready, let's come back. What did that experience feel like?
Well, I've never done that experience, so I thank you, Elix. And it was extraordinary because the first thing I started thinking of when you started asking the questions and close your eyes, of course, my brain went to me being a medium and being all over the world and having venues that I'm able to bring through loved ones for so many people on a much bigger plane than I am doing right now. But the coolest thing about that experience was when you kept talking, then I felt like, but wait a minute, that's not just, I mean, that's definitely my purpose, but I've got more than one purpose. And then I went and switched to, I was in this amazing, I had all this land and I had all these adopted animals, like all kinds of different animals, and this farm was there just to serve them. And when you said feel like you're there, what does it feel like? Who are you surrounded with? And I was in the middle. It was like a Bambi movie. I was in the middle of horses and bunnies and cats and dogs and chickens and sheep, and it was the best feeling. Like I was there. I was there. Like I created this, and I had a lot of help, and it was amazing. That was such an amazing experience.
And you know what's amazing? Stephen and I, we've been married 27, going into 28 years. And I know Stephen very well, but I swear to God, this is the first time where you've actually articulated a purpose around the love that you have for animals.
Yeah.
So that's why this exercise works. And if you give yourself to this exercise, purpose will pop to the surface.
Wow, Elix. Wow, it's even emotional. Mm-hmm. Like I can feel myself very emotional when you just said that to me. That's amazing. That was amazing.
And now go further. Now think about the different spaces, right? Being a resistor, being a skeptic, being in the wait and see, or being an experimenter or co-creating. When you found yourself living and being that purpose, where were you?
Oh, it was all the way to the right side. All the way to the right side.
There was no fear.
No, there was not. No, I was there. It was just so satisfying. Yeah, there was no fear whatsoever. I was as far over on that rainbow in the green venue than you can possibly be.
Yeah. So that is the essence. That's a practical way of shifting your brain. By the way, when we talk about our future, you think about what's possible, that literally changes the neural connections and the neurochemistry in our minds and our bodies and the thoughts that we take place. So that's exactly what happened. As you started not just thinking, but putting yourself in that place, the neurochemistry of your brain shifted. And it went from your fear, which produces cortisol, to trust, which is oxytocin, which is the drug that makes us feel excited and happy. And I could tell that you were feeling excited and happy.
I'm blown away. I've never done this exercise with you. I am 100% blown away.
How about you, Mr. Mark? What was that like for you?
Well, what I did was I was visualizing that from being here, I made it big in broadcasting. Okay, I was in New York City. I was working for a national radio outlet, okay, doing my own show, producing other shows. People listened to me. I had thousands and thousands of listeners. I lived in New York. I had the penthouse. I was, the man about town, And then it made me think when I came back that there are times that I question being here as far as, do I have 1 listener, 10 listeners, 100 listeners, 1,000 listeners? Am I doing this only for myself, right? But then that makes you think that even if you have 10 people that get enjoyment out of the time that you are on, that's worth it. so good.
And by the way, if you're watching the live stream and you're looking at Mark, his whole way of being shifted from when he was talking about being skeptical about what life can be for him versus when he's talking about being, the cat's meow as a radio, broadcaster in New York City, his whole way of being shifted. And that, again, that is a function of how the brain operates. And when you practice this, it requires practice, by the way. Notice that, in that conversation, your brain, your primitive brain, it's called primitive for a reason. It was designed in the old primitive times when it was required that we be protected, right, from primitive times. We're not in the primitive times anymore, but that brain is so old and it's so active that it's automatic. It's automatic. So this is not a one-time exercise, by the way. If you think that you're going to do this once and then be good, no, it's not going to happen. I'm telling you that right now. You got to learn to practice and practice and practice and practice, because the more you practice, the more connected you're going to get with that future, and the more you're going to train your new executive brain to begin to get activated so that you can shift those fear-based conversations to trust-based conversations. That makes sense?
Of course.
Mark, like you, and again, this is a function of what I tell people all the time. My life, I walk the walk. I'm a coach, but I don't have, my life is not perfect. Things happen, life happens. And when we come back, I'll tell you my own story about what got me here today and how I self-doubted myself for months. And Stephen knows about that. So we'll be right back. If you want to call and you want to have a conversation and you did the exercise, 508-222-1320. We'll be right back.
And, before you go, just on a side note,
And welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I am your host, Coach Elix, and we've been talking about a practical way to get to purpose. And we just did a visualization exercise, and Mark was sharing his experience, and Stephen was abruptly interrupted by the
Mark
break.
threw me to the lions. I didn't even get to speak. But what I was just going to say quickly is that Elix and I love what Mark just said, and it just shows you how that experience works, that exercise works, But also, Mark was coming from, he has his show on Wednesdays, Mark's Jukebox or Mark's 1320 Jukebox, right before my show. So Wednesdays, make sure you tune in and listen, 3 to 5. It is amazing.
So now you have 3 shows to watch at minimum at WARA 1320. So anyway, so I wanted to share my own personal experience about, self-doubt, and what has me here. I self-doubted my ability to be able to do this for the longest time. And Stephen kept saying to me, "You're crazy. You got to do this." But the gremlins were very busy. Oh my God, you don't have any radio experience. Oh my God, what are you going to talk about? Oh my God, you're not an expert on this, on that, or the other. And I had to really tune in to my inner self and connect with purpose for me. And the moment I tuned in, it was when all of those fears, because I was just really paralyzed by fear. I was paralyzed by that conversation of, oh my God, what will happen if I make a mistake and I look like a fool, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm on public radio live, mind you. But I had to let go of that. And you know what? And by the way, that doesn't mean I'm not nervous every time I do the show. I'm nervous every time I do the show. I get anxious. I have to be super prepared. I got to have everything, between Stephen and Lindsay, who manages all my work. I drive them crazy because I got to get everything lined up. I cannot leave. I cannot wing anything, right? And I drive you crazy. Tell the truth.
Yeah, well, you do, but even with the preparation, you know what you're doing, Elix. You're amazing. You really are.
But one of the things that Mark talked about is, sometimes he feels like pretending, and that's true. He does feel like pretending, and that's okay. By the way, if you have an opportunity, check out these tech talk from Amy Cuddy. Fake it till you become it. It's a fabulous tech talk. Actually, she talks about the neuroscience of the brain as well. And what she says is that, the more you fake something, eventually you will fool your brain into becoming it. So it's okay to feel like you're pretending. It's okay. Eventually your brain will listen to it as it's not a pretense. It's actually happening. It's really real. And the other thing is, a few weeks ago when I talked about the 6 rules of learned bravery, again, bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is action in the face of fear. And one of those rules is stop comparing yourself with others. Stop comparing yourself with others. I do it.
We all do.
We all do. And one of the practices that I have is the moment I do it, I just let go and I just tell myself who I am is nobody else's business. So those 2 things, just really pretend it's okay and stop comparing yourself with others. And I have a call. Hi, this is Coach Elix. Who's this? Hello.
Elix, hi, can you hear me? This is David.
Yes, I can hear you, David. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Hi. I am calling to tell you that I've been listening for the past few weeks since you began, and your program is fantastic. I just did the visualization, and it did help a lot, but I know that, I called in a couple of weeks ago to talk to Stephen, actually, and I lost my career of 17 years. And I went through a period where it's still going through it. It's like that was my identity, like who am I now? Mm-hmm. But I do have a side gig where I do a lot of artwork. But I am my biggest critic. Mm-hmm. I know, part of me knows that I do fantastic work, but then the other part of me is always like, yeah, but what if people don't like it? Mm-hmm. So that is my hurdle. I need to get over, stop what if thinking all the time.
Yeah. You do. And the quick answer to what if people don't like it, so what? By the way, Some people will not like it. That's the reality, David. And so what? Who cares? Like if some people may not like my show, and that's okay. I'm not concerned about that. I am concerned, however, about the people who do like my show, about the people who are inspired by my show. So you do that. Now, one thing that I'm going to invite you to do, David, is you have to connect with purpose, because I deal with this all the time. I have people who compromise on their purpose because they have a job, and their purpose becomes their sidekick, what they do on the side. And they live good lives, but they know that they're not living their best life because they're compromising. Now, I don't have guarantees, because there's no guarantees in life. However, I will tell you there's consequences to every action that we take. And oftentimes, David, we're so concerned about the consequence. Well, if I do what I love, I'm never going to make enough money, which, by the way, it's not true necessarily. That's a lie that the brain tells you to stop you from taking risks. But the truth is, you got to learn to tune in to what it is that you love, because their biggest consequence of all is when you compromise your love for what it is that you do, because it leaves you unhappy, it leaves you unfulfilled, it leaves you dissatisfied, and ultimately it leaves you living a life that is not your best life. Now, that doesn't mean you're not living a great life. You're not living your best life. So my invitation to you, David, is step into that gap, whatever that is, that purpose. Just trust it. Now, will it require work? Yes. By the way, if it was easy, everyone would be doing what they love. It's not easy. You got to work, and it's risky. Sometimes we fail. In baseball, there's a lot of strikes in that game. Yeah. But ultimately, if you don't take that risk, guess what? You don't get a home run.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Does that help, David?
Yes, it does. It does. Yep.
And of course, if we're here and happy to support you in any way possible.
And let me just say, because we know David, the work, and he's talking about the artistic piece, David, that you have. I have never, and I'm not just saying this, I've never seen anything like it. I've just have never seen in some of the pictures you sent me. You are, I can't even say you're talented. You're off the charts talented. You are.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you.
Seriously, and it's you've got it in you.
But whatever we think makes no difference. It's what you think that's the most. I'll take the next call.
David, thank you.
Oh no! Thank you, David. Thank you.
Take care.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, he is.
David
that talent
is unbelievable. His talent, it's crazy talent, and I'm telling you, David, you pursue that passion, you pursue that love, and absolutely nothing will get in the way. You will be unstoppable, and we'll be here to cheer you on. So
absolutely, and he's such a great guy too. In addition to his talent.
So are we making sense, Mr. Mark? Yes? You're giving me sign language again, so I'm learning.
Yeah. Well, we had a second call, but they didn't want to hang on. So.
Okay, that's fine.
Or maybe they were in the fear-based
place,
right? They were a little afraid, and you just got to get through that.
That's okay.
Right?
Fear is going to happen. Fear is designed to keep you safe. When you're safe, nothing happens. But that's the point. Nothing happens.
But you know something, Elix, many, many times, and I'm sure everybody, even David probably is going to relate to this, and many people, when you and I are having conversations, I will always say something that I can't do this because of the money, the financial piece of it. I can't do this, and I have to wait for this, and it's so much of it is that, as you talk about that scarcity conversation about I just can't because I don't have enough money, or I need money coming in. And when I say that, sometimes I sort of, drag my heels in the sand because I don't want to listen to you. But when I ultimately do, it makes more sense, and everything shifts in the positive when you tell me you can't. If you're coming from that scarcity, you're not going to go anywhere.
Words create our reality.
Yeah.
So if you say you don't have enough money, that's what the little genie, the universe hears. You don't have enough money, so I won't give you enough money. Yeah.
Just quick. I don't know. To me, age has something to do with it. Like when I was graduating from high school, I had a passion to be on radio. I went to college. I devoted my time to learn the business. Okay? I get out of college and I find that getting in the business is restrictive. And, not everybody can do it. There's only so much talent in the world. Okay.
That's a conversation for scarcity. So thank you for demonstrating that when you bring scarcity to the conversation, you get scarcity back. That's a made-up conversation for scarcity. That is not true. There is plenty. There's abundance of everything, abundance of opportunity, abundance of everything. You just have to learn to speak it. And again, whatever you speak, if you don't believe me, tomorrow morning, wake up and say, today I'm going to have a shitty day. And let me know how that day works out for you, okay? Because I promise you it's not going to be a good day.
Can you say that?
Well, I just did. So somebody must have hit the button if I'm not allowed to say it. So anyways, it's almost time. But before I close, I want to remind people, our book, Changing Conversations for a Changing World, just came out. It's on Amazon. I'm one of the co-authors. This is a book that is being written by 15 coaches and consultants from all around the world. And it's dedicated to the memory of our mentor and our friend, Judith Glaser. And it's all about changing conversations for a changing world. And we all share our own anecdotes. Is that a word?
I don't know. What are you trying to say?
Anecdotes.
Oh.
And
You
our
got
own
it.
experiences. So go take a look at my my social media so that you can get that book in your hands sooner than later. And we will be right back next Friday. Sorry. Next Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Through the Static, Steve,
Through
the
the
medium.
Static. And before that at
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock,
Yes.
Mr. Mark will be
Mark's
here
jukebox.
with his jukebox.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening, and connect with me at Coach Elix. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.